Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Kerbal Space Program. So I think in this episode we're going to talk about building a space station. Now we've kind of built just about everything else, not to say that there's really a limited thing, you can build pretty much anything in this game, but we have not built a space station. So when you're building a space station you kind of got to figure, do you want it to be a manned one or a robotic kind of automated one? But I think in this episode, we'll make a manned space station. And we'll put a little bit of fuel on it, some solar panels, and a little extra space for some extra Kerbals, and definitely a way to dock with it. So let's get going here. We're going to resume our sandbox game of Dompy. I made a career mode episode for the absolute beginner, so if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, it'd be good to check it out. So let's go into the vehicle assembly building here. So right off the bat we are presented with our usual options. Now I'm not going to pick any of these cockpits because these are mainly for little smaller craft, and I'm not going to pick any robotics ones, but I think I'm going to pick this one, PPD-12, which can only hold one, but there's a lot of windows and I think it's perfect for like a Kerbin orbiter. So we'll go with that. You can see once you're inside this cockpit here, you can look out all these windows and it just looks so nice from outer space. So let's bring this thing up here like that. Alright, now this only holds one crew, so let's bring some more crew capability. We'll grab the PPD Hitchhiker storage. So this holds actually 4 crew, and I believe recently they did add an inside, so if you click IVA now it actually has an interior and it looks pretty nice in there. So we will stick with that. Next we should add on here some kind of control. We'll throw on the advanced stability right underneath like that. Alright, and we should probably throw on some way of having this thing get around. Now I don't want it to be too ridiculously large, and we're not going to need a whole lot of fuel. I don't want this stage to be very heavy. Just enough fuel to maybe maneuver us around once we get up there, and we don't want any crazy kind of engines. We'll bolt on these side engines here, because on the bottom what we're going to do is we're going to grab a docking port, but not one of the other ones, the little ones here. We're going to actually grab the Clampotron Senior. Now if you just have it like this, you might think, oh well, I'll just pop that on there like that. But you actually need to flip this thing around, otherwise when you go to undock, this part will undock. We don't want that, so I'm going to just hit the D key and flip it around. So the way you can kind of tell is, it kind of looks like bicycle spokes on the bottom. That's what you're going to want. So that when, let's say, we launch the next part of our ship, you're going to want to connect it so that the two parts with the bicycle spokes, we'll just call them bicycle spokes, are touching each other. This way when you undock them, they will split from here and not from any other kind of direction. So what we're doing is we're planning ahead. We're leaving room for improvements, for advanced parts on here. Alright, so the next thing we should probably add is some sort of form of solar collection. So we will go ahead and grab something. Let's see. Let's grab the larger panels. I like these ones. And we'll just bolt them on the sides like that. This way we'll have power in the ship. And we should also have some kind of battery bank. I think we'll use the large one here. And we'll put that right underneath here. This way we'll have tons of power. This one gives us 4,000. So we will be very good with electric charge with this thing. Alright. Next we should include some kind of RCS. Let's see, what kind of options do we have for RCS now? We can go with the big tank here. Let's see, is this feasible? It's getting quite large already, but you're kind of going to want a lot of extra RCS so that when you go to, like, let's say you have a ship to dock with it, you can kind of refill up a lot of your RCS. But it is pretty heavy, mass 3.4. So you know what I think I might do actually? I might have a limited amount of fuel on this. This is just going to be kind of like the habitation module. It's going to have the bare bones minimum, just electric, bare bones fuel, and bare bones RCS on here, just because I don't want it to be too heavy just yet, and at this early stage we don't really need a whole lot of crazy things on here. Turn on the center of mass, grab the thruster blocks. So let's try to kind of arrange these things. Now it's okay if we put them on the ladders here. As long as we're not blocking the hatch, it'll be pretty much be okay, although our panels are kind of in the way. Let's see, we're definitely going to want to put some down here if we can. So it's not liking it. We might have to move some things around, and that's okay. Alright, so it likes that. Let's see if we can move these down just a touch. Okay, cool. So we've got the RCS fuel, we've got the RCS thrusters. Let's put another set somewhere up here. It's just makes it. It's a very tight squeeze in there. And again, we're trying to get it so that the thrusters are basically equidistant from the center of mass. That's why we have the center of mass little yellow and black ball there enabled. Alright, so we've got a way to maneuver, we've got some fuel, we've got our own way to maneuver the ship itself, and just a basic amount of fuel. Let's put some science on here. Even though this is indeed the sandbox mode, we don't really need a whole lot of science. It's always good to throw it on there anyways. Like, let's say you want to put on here the temperature scan. That's not a temperature scan. This is the temperature scan. Maybe the seismometer, even though you don't really need this kind of stuff. But it'll make it look cool and scientific, and maybe even, yeah, we'll even throw on a Communitron satellite there, just so we can communicate back to the ground there. There is another thing. We need some lights. So let's go ahead. We'll grab these large lamps here, and we'll just grab 4 of them. And I'm putting them facing down because it's going to illuminate the whole body of the craft, that's pretty much what we want. And over here we can kind of throw in these other slightly less powerful lamps in case anything needs to dock with us. So that we'll be pretty well illuminated. Let's see, anything else we need to throw on here? We've got the solar collection, that's good. Yes, actually, we could throw some other things on there. Actually, you know what? No, this is okay for now. I was just thinking a way for another ship to, like, smaller craft to dock with us. But what we can do is, since we have this open here with an extra space, we can launch another section of the space station. We can kind of build it in small sections, like the International Space Station. And what we can do is throw on an extra fuel bay in another upgrade, and then we can also attach like a docking array, which has a bunch of different means to dock with other smaller craft. So we can kind of make use of these girders. We'll maybe like make a section with like 4 girders coming out with docking ports on the end of it, and it'll just make it look all cool and science fiction-y. So let's name this thing the KSS, the Kerbal Space Station. Mark 1, we'll call it. And let's continue building, because right now we need to launch this thing, so we will add the coupler. Just slide everything up. And I know I just might add on here, if you guys have this, the Kerbal Flight Engineer mod, just so I can kind of see what's going on here. It's okay if it's kind of hidden like that, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Just so I can kind of see our thrust weight ratios and all that good stuff. So let's make our launch stage. Grab a orange tank with a mainsail. And I think we'll put on the side I'll try 2 other large oranges with other mainsails. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll kind of do it asparagus style. Now if we do in fact need to go ahead and add more fuel, we can always do that. Let's say we launch it and it's just a big failure. Sure, it'll be a little embarrassing, but that's okay. It's Kerbal Space Program. Alright, and I just also might throw on here some solid fuel boosters, just for some extra power. After all, that's what they do. They boost us into orbit. So there we are. I always like to throw on the nose cone there. Also strut it. Up here and down here. And lest we forget, launch stability clamps. Put 2 here, and we'll just alt-click and we'll grab another 2 just to help balance it out. The more the better. And also we might as well, we might as well strut from, let's see if we can do this from here. Can we actually attach to the engine? Yes. That kind of looks funny. I don't really like it. Let's do it like this. Let's go from here to here. That'll kind of hold us in a little better for now. Okay, let's talk about our staging. And actually, should we put Separatrons on here? Yeah, let's put the Separatrons on. It's always good to have Separatrons. Line it up. There we go. So yes, let's do our staging. So we want the very first thing to happen is all the engines and all the stability. So we will just drag that all the way down to stage 5. So that's all the engines, and we also want these solid fuels to light too. Next we should have these decouple, but it looks like the Separatrons are in that stage, so let's move those up 1 to the actual orange tanks. Indeed. So the Separatrons are now in the orange tank separation. So what we have is main engine ignition, then we have booster separation, and then we're going to have orange separation, leaving us with the orange tank here. Now what I might do, believe it or not, I might come in here and actually just add a little bonus fuel on the bottom here, just because I just get the feeling that it might not be enough. And we're going to go ahead and just strut that in. It's weird, like if you don't do this, it kind of... I didn't quite like it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You kind of have to finagle with it. Like I think that did it. It doesn't look like it did it, but if you don't do that, what'll happen is this engine will push against this gray tank and it'll wobble the gray tank around, and it will just be very unstable. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Just trying to think if we need anything else on here. You know, we might as well add some fins. So let's throw these winglets on here at the bottom, see if we can fit them. Can't exactly do 4, can we? Unless we do it like this, maybe? Let's see, I'm just kind of messing around here. That did it. Okay. It's not really hitting anything. It's good to put those winglets on. They kind of help guide the ship up, especially if it's kind of tall like this. Although this isn't the tallest thing we've ever made, but... Let's go to action groups. Let's go in here and make custom 1 our solar panels. Toggle the panels. Save. Now I always feel like I'm forgetting something, but I think that's a pretty natural feeling. Let's go over here. Let's see. Bob's gonna pilot it. And let's have our Duna heroes, Enlin and Nedbald, come up there with him. Just so that Bob's not all by himself. We can leave empty seats for a couple other Kerbins if we need to. So I think we'll call that a completed design. Let's go ahead and launch this thing, and let's see if we get up into orbit. Kind of have a cold coming on, so I'm drinking tea with lemon and honey right now. So if you hear me gulping or sniffling or swallowing really hard, I apologize. It's it's a nasty cold I've got coming on. Alright, so here we are on the launch pad, and we have Bob. Let's just do a little IVA. This is what Bob sees, so you can tell we have a lot of windows here, and when this thing gets into orbit, that's going to look so nice. He's giving us a little thumbs up there. It's going to look so nice from orbit. And let's just hit IVA on Enlund. This is what they see. So you can see a bunch of extra chairs, and there's the hatch. Space. Space is that way. Yes, indeed. There we are. Food and not food. Junk. So it's a little clipboard there. That's pretty funny. This game is a great sense of humor. Alright, anyways, let's go right ahead and we're going to throttle up. We're going to hit the T key for stability. We have our flight engineer ready to read us all the data necessary, and let's launch it in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So we're off to a really good start. Nice acceleration. Enlund looks pretty happy, but Ned Bald is a little upset, and Bob's really upset. Bob, he's one of the main 3 heroes, so I'm just going to throttle back to about 2/3 now, because we are really accelerating very quickly, up to almost 200 meters per second, and remember, we're going to want to keep it under 200 meters per second. Otherwise, the atmospheric drag will actually act like a big engine pushing us down in the other direction. Again, I'm just going to throttle back even more, just down to 1/3. Those boosters are really helping us. Plus, we kind of want the boosters to jettison first before our orange stage. And it looks like that is indeed what's going to happen here, so we're just kind of saving our liquid fuel and sacrificing our solid fuel, and that's the point. That's the purpose of them. Here we go. They are staged. They are falling like bombs. Good. And before we hit the 10,000 mark, I'm just going to rotate the ship around so that we are actually pointing in the direction that we are eventually going to be turning 90 degrees. I just like it. It feels better to me if it's like this. We'll be tilting kind of over long side, or flat side instead of long side, if that makes any sense. Here's our 10,000 mark. I'm just going to throttle back to 2/3 and start pushing the ship 90 degrees. Coming up on booster separation again, and there they go. I'm just also going to push this thing to... Actually, you know, I'll leave it at about a G worth of acceleration. So I'm just going to continue to push the ship over like that. Now, flight engineer is telling us we have about 1 minute and 35 seconds left of burn in this stage, so I'm not sure if we are going to make it. We might actually have to go back and add on a few more orange tanks, but we also might be just fine, so it's kind of hard to tell at this point. We are getting quite away from ourselves here, so I'm just going to push the ship almost to the horizon here. So it's a good thing we added this extra little gray bit of fuel on here. It's not going to be a whole lot of extra fuel, but it's going to be something. It's going to help us out. So picking up forward velocity very nicely, as well as some nice height. So I think I might just leave it at this point for now. I am concerned about getting this thing up above high enough. We have about 40 more seconds of burn in this stage here, so it's going to be down to the wire, and I kind of like that in Kerbal. You know, sometimes you get too comfortable and you need a little extra challenge, so that's okay. So here we are really getting up there. I'm going to just follow the prograde vector. I think we're going to just make it. We might actually have to use the space station's boosters to push us the rest of the way, but that's okay. As long as we get that height up to about 100,000 and that velocity close to 2,000, which is exactly what we've just done. We have 5 seconds of thrust left in this stage, so we are going to indeed use some of the space station's fuel reserves to probably finish our orbit to boost us the orbital injection burn, but that's just fine. I mean, that's really what it's for. So we'll just make sure that we are in a relatively circular 100-kilometer orbit here. We'll have 101 by 100. That's okay. So our engines are off, and yeah, really good thing we added that that orange or that gray tank in there. That was pretty good. So I'm gonna just enable the RCS thrusters just to help us out, just to rotate us to that blue vector there. So we now are 70 kilometers above. We are officially out of the atmosphere. And just push the T on that blue vector. So we are just kind of coasting up here. Coasting to apoapsis. So let's just do a little time acceleration. Now it's going to take 11 seconds with this amount of thrust, which we only have 5 seconds of. So I might start this burn maybe right at 10 seconds or 12 seconds, something like that. Just to make sure that we do have a good burn and we don't need to go back and correct anything really. In fact, I might just start it right now. There's no harm in that. So we are finishing the orbit and finishing this booster. Stage it and activate. So now we have a whole new little bit here, and that's actually perfect because now that piece of debris is going to fall to the planet instead of orbit with the space station, which would be quite dangerous. And we have plenty of fuel and thrust for this little craft here. So right about there, we'll cut the engines. 103 by 98, so it's not exactly perfect. We can kind of mess around with this. 102 by 100, 100 by 101. See if we can 100 by 102 is better this way. Yeah, so we'll just do a little correction. It's like barely anything, 8 meters per second. You could probably piss out of the side of the rocket ship and get 8 meters per second. No joke, you probably really could. So we will just wait till that burn mark comes. And before we forget, let's deploy our panels here. So you are going to want to collect that bit of solar power here. Okay, so we're at the mark, and there we go. 100 by 101, and that's really fine. So we have a relatively equatorial ecliptic orbit around the equator, about 100 kilometers up, and so we'll call that a low Kerbin orbit space station. Let's turn on our lights, so you can really see our lights kind of help us see what's going on in this particular spacecraft. So let's just take a look. Actually, what we'll do is we will time warp around until we are on the lighter side again. So it's going to slowly, if you check out our resources, slowly just drain our power because we are now using electric. But we come around and zaps that power right back up again, so we can even turn those lights off. So let's just move around to where we're really in the sunny side here. And we'll kind of look upon our home planet of Kerbin through the eyes of Bob Kerman. Oh, beautiful. See what I mean? I knew it was going to be nice. So this is really a nice pod to use for like a space station or some kind of orbiter. I'll just turn the craft a little bit. And Bob gets a wonderful view. You have spares. I can't exactly read what that says. I kind of dialed back the resolution a little bit just to save on performance, so you can't quite see what all these little funny notes say. But if you have yours at like pretty high resolution, then you'll probably be able to read those notes. So that is our space station, and it looks pretty. It looks nice. Well, let's just extend that, even though it's not really going to do anything. It kind of just looks good for the press, right? It makes it look better. I say that is pretty. Let's do another IVA. Let's see what's going on. So these guys are very happy now. I think that's their portholes here. I don't know if we can... Yeah, we can kind of see, but you know what it is? We blocked them with our solar panels. Sorry, guys. You can't really see out. Solar power comes first before aesthetic value, I think. Oh, look, there's little Kerbal pictures on there. Isn't that cute? All right. Toothbrushes. Board games. Which is hilarious, because in space you couldn't play a board game. Imagine trying to play chess in space. Your pieces would just fly around. Anyways, so I think we can end this episode here. We got our space station up there. There's a bit of debris floating around. Let's see what exactly that is. Let's enable debris. That's I don't know what that is. Untitled. It's gonna orbit forever. Duna Explorer debris. So we got a bit of a Kessler syndrome going on here around the planet. What's this one? We got something's escaping at quite a high velocity. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but for now I think we'll call this one an episode. Join us next time. We'll probably keep adding on to our space station here, our KSS space station. So until then, see you later.